the past 50 years, black music from America has played a large part in various youth cultures across Britain. In the early 70s, the golden era of 60s soul became a lifestyle for an informed few in the north of England. What started as a strictly underground movement quickly spread by word of mouth, and unlike other youth cultures, managed to avoid the attention of the national press. Today, 35 years after the northern soul scene developed from its mod roots, its strongest following is arguably in London, with new club nights opening weekly.
Well, northern soul was working class music. It was the Motown of the North. That's what it was.
Every dollar that you get, compare my love, and then
we came across northern soul dancing, the specialty in the dancing. We were all just taken aback because we thought we were cool.
When I've used all my techniques on your good look,
playing the usual glam rock, you know, Gary Glitter, Slade, all that stuff. Okay? And then these guys went up and hands the DJ a handful of sevens, and out comes this music. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it was woof, and the vocals belting out, and I thought, Christ, this is soul, but I've not heard it like this before. And then they started dancing, you're spinning about flips. I'm like, fucking hell, Ken. You know, I fancy some of that. I'm bound to get a shag if I can do all that.
For 20 years, northern soul was the north of England's best-kept secret. Its followers danced all night to America's unwanted soul records at venues like the Wigan Casino and Manchester's Twisted Wheel. The vast dance halls and ballrooms of the north provided the space for a unique dance style to develop.
Oh, it didn't happen in London because London was too cold. You can't sweat. Of course, you know, the guy comes in his, you know, his fabulous silk suit and stands at the bar. He ain't going to get his medallions out and start doing handstands, is he? No, he's there to show you he's important. You know, up north we don't give a shit who's important. We just want a tune. Give us the tune, son. Let's get on with our dancing. You know, and nobody cared. Nobody cared what anybody looked like.
The Twisted Wheel in Manchester was probably the first acknowledged northern soul club, which actually was going in the early 60s, but by the late 60s was playing the old mid-60s records, sort of rare danceable soul records. And that was, I think that was a dark basement club, you know, right, your typical seedy nightclub. So only probably held, I don't know, 300 people. So, you know, again, it was very much the in-crowd thing. Only a few people knew about it, but a real buzzing atmosphere down there. And later on, the Wheel closed, of course, and Northern Soul ironically got more popular as the Twisted Wheel closed.
Northern Soul as a sound grew out of clubs all over the country, primarily the Twisted Wheel in Manchester, with certain Midlands clubs like the Catacombs and the Chateau Impney in Droitwich as well at the same time. Blues and Soul journalist Dave Godding came up north, visited the Wheel, and wrote an article called Soul of the North, and he then adopted the term Northern Soul, meaning the soul music that was being played at that time in the north of England. It was really Motown-esque soul, because now it's probably got more of a following in London than it has got anywhere else. Its two big strongholds are Manchester, the northwest, and London.
I looked for a venue that would really be right for Northern Soul music. Wigan Casino was the actual place I went to. But luckily I had a young manager called Mike Walker who'd seen that the tail end of the 60s and early 70s, it was hard to attract the crowds again there, and probably thinking, well, if we can put something on late at night without affecting normal business, we'll have a go at it. So September 21st, 1973, we started the all-nighters.
As you walked in, you were just presented with this huge, huge room, all musical style, big balcony all the way around, and then just chairs all round the bottom, and a huge dance floor and a big stage right at the back.
And it was, you know, a sea of folk dancing, but every fucker was in time to the music, you know, and there was these boys spinning, and then guys going up the walls, flipping side splits, and everyone was whoosh, clapping in time to the music. I'd never seen anything like it. It was just like, whoa, what have I come into, you know? And and the music was just so nice compared to what you would hear back in Scotland at the time.
most of the guys at Wigan were all coal miners in the Lancashire coalfield. And this was their incredible weekend. They danced, you know, from Friday night to Saturday night. It was the North and the Midlands equivalent to Detroit. It was something that they could relate to, and 99% of them had come straight from the factory or were going straight back to the factory. I used to remember we had to close on a Sunday night because everybody had to get back to get a shower and get to work the next day.
Watching them dance is quite beautiful. Seeing someone who can't express themselves go into this, you know, beautiful spin. Head goes back, you know, eyes roll, touch the heart, come up with a fist, bite the fist. You know, it's incredible to see that.
It was a revolution in dance culture because men danced and women didn't. I mean, you look at the gay culture now, and you can go back to that and say, you know, like people say, well, men dance with men. I said, 90% of my life, it's been men dancing with men, you know.
The dancing, you know, there is a certain peacock element in the dancing, and, you know, the more spins and backdrops and just generally good dancing you can do is going to impress the crowd in general. But not always. I mean, people do get into almost like a trance, and they just listen to the music so hard and are dancing to themselves. That's the nice thing. You've not got a partner to dance with, so you're really concentrating on what you're doing yourself, and you get into the lyrics, you get into the mood, and get into the whole emotions of the songs.
Originally, I think it was a follow-on from the Teddy Boys. They used to do like their backdrops and little handstand business. But then 1973, 74, you got the Bruce Lee films coming out, and I joined the Taekwondo club just before, but by the time I was going to all-nighters in Edinburgh and Dundee, everyone I was meeting was into Kung Fu, Karate, Taekwondo. And you would be, you'd be training 3 or 4 nights a week, you'd be doing all these fancy things with your legs, hooking kicks, spinning kicks, etc. You go down to Wigan at the weekend, and you'd see the folk doing the backdrop forward. You think, I can take that a stage further. You know, I can spin this leg round and flip that leg over, then go up in there with one leg round and do a hook and kick here. And it developed, I think, martial arts, for me anyway. I used to invent your own tricks. It was like a competition. So I was inventing tricks on the Tuesday and Wednesday night at the Taekwondo club. And like, my leg goes that way, then it can spin that way. Then if I do that, the weight of my body's going that way, so I'll bring this leg over here. And you worked it out yourself. So basically, it came from rock and roll dancers, but then we took it a hoot of a stage further to what you'd call break dancing today.
Particular tracks had different breaks in the tunes, were specific moments of when you would then do your backdrops, your flips, your splits, cartwheels. Specific parts in the tunes also was for clapping. There'd be a break, you'd clap, you'd have 4 or 5 claps, and then you might even then go into your backdrops. And then from the break finish, you were back into your normal dance step routine.
99% of the spins and the drops, backdrops and everything that you see are perpetuated by the fact that they put talcum powder on the floor of the venue, and it helps the people to spin and to do the slides and stuff.
I did polish the soles of my shoes, but I never used the talc. I never went for the talc.
I'd never seen people dance like that, and I'd never seen people spin like that, and I'd never seen people drop down on their knees like that. It was quite scary to watch it, because you've got anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500 people in a room, all of them doing the same type of dance, all of them gymnastically looking fitter than you would ever believe anybody could possibly be. They were doing the spins and the backdrops.
Oh, yeah, the dances were incredible. And even on the dancing, there was a pecking order, because the best dancers were at the front. And when you're serving your apprenticeship, you're right at the back. And as you got better, you could get further up to the front, whereas you'd really have to be good to replace some of the other dancers at the front, which I only found that out a couple of years later. And I thought, well, everybody in here's brilliant dancers. And obviously the best dancers were actually at the front where the DJs were. But the athleticism was absolutely superb.
Like the other youth cultures before it, Northern Soul developed its own distinctive dress code. The tight-fitting suits of the mods were discarded in favour of baggy, high-waisted trousers, worn with a lightweight vest and sweatbands, and a beer towel tucked into the back pocket. Patches displayed allegiances to particular clubs, and a change of clothes carried in an all-nighter bag was essential. As the scene grew, people were prepared to travel vast distances to listen and dance to rare soul music.
You need to look right for the part of being a Northern Souler. You'd wear your short-sleeve shirts, very neatly ironed, very pristine. You'd wear I'd have Spencer's soul bags, 21-inch bottoms, specifically asking your mother to sew the hem up to ½ an inch above your ankle. You'd have your white socks on, and then your moccasin shoes or your brogues, polished soles, and you just looked absolutely fantastic.
So no, it was a real mix of clothes, but they had to be loose around the genitalia for the gentleman to dance.
The actual bagginess of the trousers, the 21-inch bottoms, created a momentum, a flow, if you like, when you were dancing. So as you span, the whole of your trousers just came out into this impressive loop. And then in high kicks and then backdrops, it created flow.
I think it just needed to pad out with some really special music. And Radio 1 wouldn't touch it with a barge pole, as radio was very much in its infancy anyway in the UK back then. So there was really nowhere to hear it. So I think it was a hunger, really. It was a rebellious hunger for something good, and I think we found it. In the north, though, there was an awful lot of what I call obscura soul being played in regular youth clubs. So I was exposed, even in the late 60s, to records that had never made the charts.
Northern people still wanted to hear, I love you, I hate you, come back, go away. That's all they wanted. Didn't want anything else, and they were prepared to pay for that, just as long as the singer was giving it them with passion and giving it with them so that they could stand up and be counted. And that's all Northern Soul was, it was passion.
As the music became more important, the DJs reached an almost iconic status. But the likes of Colin Curtis, Richard Serling and Ian Levine were by no means alone. Rare records were covered up by rival DJs wanting to keep their sets exclusive, and a massive trade in rare soul sprang up all over the country. Even today, prices commanded can be enormous. Frank Wilson's legendary single, Do I Love You, recently changed hands for a reputed £35,000. It's one of the rarest records in the world.
The DJs used to disappear to America, find the most obscure tracks, always a fast beat, always something with a break in it or something, and then they would come back and basically use it as a white label, of which no one knew the track, the name or artist for quite some time.
Without anybody to find them, some of these records, like the Frank Wilson record, would have just disappeared without trace. Yeah, they became cult favourites because of the appreciation by the crowd, but the crowd wouldn't have got to appreciate them if DJs and people like myself hadn't gone out to find them in America first. Someone had to locate and discover these records to bring them to the crowd. The crowd had to appreciate them for the scene to grow. So it's a spider's web where it's like finite threads all linking together. One wouldn't have happened without the other. It's a unique phenomenon that many different contributing factors made Northern Soul happen between them.
Some DJ somewhere in the country decided to turn the record over and found an audience and an ear for the B-side that was far more enjoyable than it was for the A-side. So consequently, the A-sides were smaller in stature than the B-sides. So that actually caught a lot of artists out when they came over here, that they thought they were coming to perform the A-sides, the songs that they had put out, hoping that they would be hits, only to get here to realize that it was the B-side of the record that was a hit.
I've seen artists come on stage in the last 10 years and just be absolutely gobsmacked at the amount of people that know their records that they've forgotten the lyrics to.
There were some artists from the States like Edwin Starr, Major Lance, J.J. Barnes, who were terrific. They were undervalued in America. Edwin Starr in particular had many, many great songs, A-sides, B-sides, album tracks. He had made so many good records, and although he'd had a lot of success with Motown, I think that he was always running behind Marvin Gaye, Diana Ross, and I think he would admit to that. But he not only is a fantastic performer, but he made some absolutely unbelievable records. And as I say, there are some artists who, for whatever reason, are just perfect for the north of England, and I would put Edwin Starr at the top of that pile.
When I arrived at the Mojo Club for my first gig, typically it was raining at the time. And I saw all these people standing on the steps, and I said to the guy that was driving me, I said, what are those people doing? And he said, they're waiting to see you. And I couldn't believe it. In the rain, they were standing there waiting to see me.
When the Flirtations turn up, people are saying that you can see them trying to see if we really are the original Flirtations. And yes, we are the original Flirtations. Sometimes we have good days and sometimes we have bad days. But we are.
I saw these lines and lines of kids outside, and I just couldn't believe that this was the kind of place they wanted to go to have fun, because I didn't know what was happening until I went in and I found out through people that it was a place where they recognized and were dedicated to the older music of the 60s. So I felt more comfortable when they told me that, because I felt, well, at least I know I'm somewhere where people are going to identify with my music, identify with me. And it was, it turned out to be one of the most fantastic nights I've ever had.
I thank Northern Soul so much for embracing us as a people, as artists as we are, to keep us alive and keep that thing alive and make us feel good about what we did and what we're still doing.
I was living down in London, and me and my friend Mick Smith, who was a DJ, used to go down Portobello Road and look for rare old singles. And we were in a record shop and came across a Tony Blackburn Polydor LP. And we took a general look at it and had a bit of a chuckle. But I saw that one of the songs was I'll Do Anything, which was a terrific Northern Soul song by Doris Troy, the original singer. And we thought, well, we'll just buy it. It was only 10 bob, so I bought the single, took it back home.